Good morning, and welcome to Morning Movie News, where we've spent a lot of time lately talking about how the Batman v Superman ad campaign isn't quite as good as we would like it to be, or as the film deserves it to be. I don't think that Warner Brothers has done a good job making Batman v Superman feel like an event that cannot be missed. I mean, it's certainly an exciting movie, and they have a lot of coverage, but I would liken it to the Captain America Civil War coverage. When a trailer drops, like later today for Captain America Civil War, everyone's very excited, but a lot of the coverage seems like white noise, right? Like it's just like a cloud of coverage. You're like, oh, like just like so much coverage and so all over the place that I think it's hard to for the audience to focus their excitement on like what they should be excited about. But while those ad campaigns I think are a little off, I think that Suicide Squad is approaching Deadpool levels of campaigning, and Warner Brothers is really on target here. And they clearly can advertise a movie very well. So one would wonder why they didn't do that for Batman v Superman. But Suicide Squad, we talked also about Deadpool's ad campaign and how brilliant that was. And it's interesting that Suicide Squad is a somewhat similar property. Very out of the box to begin with, and so it's allowed for out of the box campaigning. But what's really great about Suicide Squad is that they've decided to become associated with the South by Southwest Film Festival, which is starting up this week, March 11th to March 20th. Now, they're not going to screen the film because they don't want to air Suicide Squad right before Batman v Superman comes out. They want to make sure they keep the attention on Batman v Superman. But they are going to have a presence at the festival, which is incredibly smart because South by Southwest is like the Suicide Squad of film festivals. For instance, the type of films that are debuting there are Keanu, Hardcore Henry, Pee-wee's Big Holiday, which of course is a Netflix movie, and we're going to talk about Netflix in our next story. But that's just a really great choice. And also, while it's a very, rock and roll film festival, it's a respected film festival. Richard Linklater has a very good reputation with that festival. His films debut there. Of course, and he's, Boyhood, major Oscar-nominated film, huge Golden Globe winner. And then, his Bernie movie, it's a very good festival to be associated with. So to get a comic book movie with a film festival is very cool indeed. So what are they going to do? Well, they've released a bunch of posters yesterday to announce this. There's first this candy poster, which I think is absolutely fantastic. And as people pointed out, that's a lollipop there, but it's also a sucker. That's another word for it. And I like the idea of, a little bit like Bohemian Rhapsody, also... The Joke Was on Me, that the song they used for the Comic-Con trailer. Really, really clever, like meta to like not breaking the fourth wall like Deadpool does, but really, really like it's very impressive to see a creative team from the filmmakers to the advertisers really be like, well, let's not miss any opportunity to strengthen our brand, to strengthen the message of this movie, to strengthen the theme. So that's very, very cool. And I'd be curious, actually, Ryan Reynolds' involvement was a big factor in the success of the Deadpool ad campaign, and I wonder if David Ayer perhaps is involved. He was very active on social media promoting this movie, and maybe the answer to good ad campaigns is to have your talent involved in promoting the movie because they obviously have a lot invested in it succeeding. And then also that's going to, maybe cause some directors to up their game. Maybe Zack Snyder, isn't particularly good at advertising, a property. And maybe that's just not a strong suit of his. I mean, he seems to be a little off because he will often miss the target with the film itself. So maybe that's a problem as well. But anyway, so they have this cool poster, but also they're setting up something called Harley Quinn's Tattoo Parlor. Now, this isn't the first time we've heard about Harley Quinn's Tattoo Parlor because they talked about it a lot when they were filming the movie. They all tattooed each other. David Ayer tweeted out Margot Robbie tweeting she was tweeting someone. How exciting. No, she was tattooing somebody. And then also when she was on Letterman promoting a Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, she said she owns a tattoo gun and she will tattoo people at random at her house. But also she said when she was tattooing, I believe it was Jai Courtney's assistant, she misspelled the name. She misspelled what she was supposed to be tattooing. So, oops. I'm like, at least I hope you got a photo of that to make the tattoo live on in infamy. But anyway, tattoos have become a very big part of the Suicide Squad brand. The tattooed man is the villain. So it's very, very, well, that's the guess that he's the villain. He's at least in the film played by Common. So that's very, very clever. And also, I talked about casting Poison Ivy yesterday, and I really liked the suggestion that some of you had that Poison Ivy perhaps, often is depicted with vines, literal vines growing on her. What if they were tattoos and she was an environmental activist and an expert with poisons? And, that's a more real world application of her plant abilities. I thought that was fantastic. Maybe that's how she and Harley can meet. But anyway, the other interesting thing is that Harley and Joker, while they have plenty of tattoos in the movie, they aren't exactly what you would call professional-looking tattoos, right? It looks like prison tattoos that they did themselves even, not even like they got the most artistically inclined prisoner in the joint to do it. They were like, let's just draw it on ourselves. To me, it actually looks like high school things when people will draw on themselves with a ballpoint pen and be like, look at my tattoo, it lasts a couple of days. And, you're like, I'm sure you're sorry you did that. It does not look particularly good. But these tattoos do look good. And they debuted posters for South by Southwest that have tattoo designs for each character. And the idea, obviously, is that you can go by Southwest and you can get one of these tattoos. You pick one. Now, the question is, are they permanent or are they temporary? If they're permanent, I would advise, just as I said when they tattooed themselves while making the movie, I wouldn't tattoo myself for a film until it came out. Especially, it's not even a sequel. This is the first movie. So I wouldn't want, to brand myself permanently with something that, might not work out, right? And be like, hey, that's like, imagine if they had gotten, Fantastic Four tattoos, or Pixels tattoos, or sadly, Ghostbusters tattoos. You'd be like, is that just to remind you never to have an all-female cast again? I just don't think it's a good idea. Let's see how the film is received. However, if these are temporary tattoos, I think the line's going to be around the block. I would get one. Which one would I get? That's what I wanted to ask you today. I would get Harley Quinn. I think that the tattoo designs, all of them, I think none of them really excite me, but I would want one because it's just cool and it's a good idea for Suicide Squad, and I would want to be part of the party. That's a big part of these ad campaigns, making you want to be part of the party. And if it's temporary, why not? And I just think the Harley Quinn is the prettiest. I like the incorporation of the pink and the blue. I think it's very nice. And the other ones, they all are a little devoid of color. I would have preferred for them to be more colorful, but I understand that they're trying to mimic actual tattoos. Although I've seen some pretty colorful tattoos. But anyway, I'd be curious if you would get it if it were permanent or if you would get it if it were temporary. I'm sure everyone would get it if it were temporary. And then also, which tattoo would you ask for? I mean, that would make it very fast. They just have to have people come in. They're already cut up and they're temporary. They just have to put some water on it and some alcohol, and they can just shuffle people through that door pretty quickly. And then everyone will be walking around the South by Southwest with Suicide Squad tattoos. That is some nice free advertising. They're like, you have to put it on your face or your hand. Sorry. All right, so that's the first story of the day. The second story, I had trouble deciding what stories I wanted to cover today. There were a couple good ones. I had to boot one to tomorrow. But the reason this one made the cut is because it obviously has to do with the Suicide Squad and South by Southwest with Netflix. Because we talked recently about David Ayer and Suicide Squad 2, and the fact that he wants to make this movie called Bright, written by Max Landis, which is really end of watch with fairies and orcs, right? So that was the project that they were really trying to fast track next. And I said maybe it'll go to Warner Brothers, and then they'll be okay with the delay in Suicide Squad 2. Well, it looks like it's not going to Warner Brothers. It looks like Netflix has acquired its first blockbuster film. They have a big star movie already in the works with Brad Pitt that's, fast approaching, that they paid a hefty amount of money for, I believe $30 million for that movie. But that's nothing compared to what they're doing for Bright. Bright was being shopped around, and we got a little more clarification as to the story. Basically, it's R.I.P.D., but with fairies. So I'd be very nervous about that pitch, actually, when you loop R.I.P.D. into the situation, which of course was with ghosts. But this is like a world where humans and fairy tale creatures coexist, and a human police officer, Will Smith, is teamed up with an orc officer, which is also very Warcrafty, played by Joel Edgerton, and there's some kind of crime situation. But because it deals with fairies and fantasy creatures, it obviously requires some visual effects. So they were shopping around with a budget of 80 to 100 million, and one studio pitched with 55 million, and it did not work out. David Ayer and company said no. So that means that Netflix has tentatively agreed to invest $80 million in this picture, not including advertising. I mean, if they can get that kind of a return through their subscription service, I mean, that would be amazing. I mean, Netflix is becoming a player in the movie game through sheer purchase power. I mean, they really haven't had a breakout success yet like they had with their television shows, with the binge watching, which are basically 13-hour movies, let's be honest. And maybe that's the problem. Maybe these movies are too short. People on the Netflix platform want more content. I mean, people enjoy the half-hour shows, but I don't think they catch on like the hour shows. I just wrapped up House of Cards. I was addicted. It just like ruled my life. And of course, Daredevil is coming down the pipeline for a week from tomorrow, and I'll be reviewing that episode by episode. And of course, we all know that that's going to take up our weekends as well. So I'm curious. I think that I would be curious to see if Bright can do really well on this platform, on the Netflix platform, and have people stay at home. And actually, we're going to cover a business thing for the viewer question that is going to circle back to that in just a moment. But first, the third story of the day, which is they had, Nehisi Coates is becoming the new writer of Black Panther. And they're trying to really relaunch that character, make it very popular as they get ready for the Captain America Civil War and, of course, his own movie. So Nehisi Coates, very well-respected author in general, but particularly in the Black community. He was very heavily featured on a recent episode of Blackish, talking about civil rights and police brutality. And so the Atlantic, I believe the Atlantic Monthly or Journal, I believe the paper that Nehisi Coates is associated with, ran a sneak peek of his Black Panther title. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because they had this very interesting panel of the Black Panther mask going on, and instead of him pulling it over his head, it was technology-wise, and it just came around his face, almost like the Iron Man suit technology. And I was like, why would you do that unless it's in the movie? So we'll see if they feature that even perhaps in the trailer today. But I think that's a very big change. It makes it very Iron Man-y, although they've been very, very specific that Iron Man had nothing to do with this suit, even though it looks a lot like Iron Man's suit. I guess they were like, we don't want to build a new, model in the, VFX system. We'll just repaint Iron Man to some degree. But I think it will be very, although Black Panther, of course, Chadwick Boseman does wear an actual suit on set. So there's that difference there. Although there is something that for Robert Downey Jr. to wear occasionally, mostly when the suit goes on, it becomes a special effect. But I thought that was a very big change. It really ups the technological aspects of Black Panther, whereas in the past, while he's a technology expert and the country of Wakanda is very advanced, there's been a very heavy mythological component to the character. And I'm curious to see how they're going to reconcile that with the increased technological situation. But it was a big change. It's a big stylistic change, and I think it's a big sneak peek at the movie. Now, as for the viewer question, this is something that was tweeted to me by a BTT viewer last night. I actually was going to cover a different question, so I don't have that person's name to reference. I apologize. But this actually, when I was talking, I was like, oh, this perfectly ties into what we're discussing. I need to cover it today. So someone tweeted me an article about this program Sean Parker is pushing. Sean Parker, a Facebook fame, played by Justin Timberlake in The Social Network. Well, he has an idea of shopping around a platform a little bit like iTunes, okay, and people's Apple TVs, that would allow anyone, the consumer, to purchase a movie that's playing in theaters day and date for $50. And you have 48 hours to watch it. And you have to pay like $150 to get the box, like a subscription fee, maybe for a year, right? It's $150 a year. And then on top of that, it's $50 a movie. Now, for an individual, that's a huge investment. And they're saying they might offset that by saying, here are 2 free tickets to go and see it in theaters if you want. I don't know why you would do that, but they're saying that. But still, one screen for $50, for a family, that makes a lot of sense. For people who have like a lot of roommates, that makes sense. Even you can invite your friends over and say, for $50, that'll cover all of our tickets. Now, how are they going to do this? Well, for the $50, they want to give like $20 to the studio, another $20 to the exhibitors, and AMC is close to signing on to this. And the studios are very interested, by the way. And then the last $10 would be kept by this streaming service. And they're saying it's going to combat piracy, although some people feel it will just make piracy even easier, because for $50, you can easily get a very good copy of the film. Although I think piracy, it's obviously very easy to get a very good copy of the film right now. Now, this person who tweeted me was very upset about it and felt it was a bad idea, but I don't agree. I think that they're going to make the smaller movies available this way. I think, for instance, the article in Variety had a poll and said, would you watch Batman v Superman at home for $50? If you think Batman v Superman would be available on this platform, I think you are mistaken. I think this is for like Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, Steve Jobs. Very small films that people just have decided are not worth going to the theater to see. And they're like, well, we can't compete with streaming services unless we become a streaming service ourselves, right? Like, would you go see a House of Cards movie in the theater? Probably not, but you do excitedly binge watch all 13 episodes at home. So I think there are a lot of movies that people skip that they would be more inclined to watch if they could watch it day and date in their home, right? And then I think there's an excitement factor to getting it so fast. The other reason I'm in favor of this is because this already exists for the very wealthy. And I think that this would even the playing field. A lot of celebrities, you might be like, why don't I see celebrities at the movie theater all the time? Don't they want to go watch these movies? They can't all be going to press screenings and advanced screenings. And also people in the press like myself would see them there. So where are they? How are they watching movies? They're watching it through a very expensive service that costs like hundreds of thousands of dollars at the end of the day for getting this box and then getting the first run movies. It's extremely expensive, and it's really priced at the situation so only like the 1%er community can get it. But that's why, for instance, Seth MacFarlane has an IMAX theater that he built in his home with his Family Guy money, and he has this subscription. So he can watch any movie, including Batman v Superman, in his IMAX theater in his home whenever he wants, as soon as it hits the theater. And so I feel I'm a very strong believer in, trying to, I don't think it's fair for Hollywood to create this like, they let theaters become really bad, and then they're like, but we don't care because we don't go to them. So if they're able to opt out of the movie theater experience, so should the rest of us. We should be able to as well. So I'm curious, and I think that would be very competitive for Netflix if this was done. So I'm curious, would you sign up for this? At the end of the day, do you think it would be worth it? Remember, it's like $130 or $150 to sign up to get access to the box, and then it's an additional $50 per movie. But, you get a 48-hour window to play it, and you can invite other people over. And so I think with how expensive theater tickets are getting, in New York City, it's about, for a really good theater experience, it's about $20 a movie. And that's not including 3D. So we're pretty much already there. When I go with a group of friends or my family, we're already passing $50. So I'm curious, what do you think? I think this is a great idea. I'm in favor of it, and I'm curious to see if Sean Parker can pull it off. All right, so that's today's morning movie news. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please be sure to write your thoughts down below about top 3 stories and that viewer suggested story. And of course, anything you'd like to see covered tomorrow and any questions that you might have. Thanks for watching. Bye.